Pittsburgh Steeler fans, we are here, we are live, and we have a very special guest. I am Dave Schofield, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. I am joined by our podcast producer, Brian Anthony Davis, but we don't really care about us right now because we want to introduce our special guest, Steelers legend, Ike Taylor.
Yes.
Legend. Ike, how are you doing today?
I don't know about legend, but yeah, you know, it's always good to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, so I appreciate the compliment.
Well, you are definitely a legend in our eyes, and we're glad to have you from the day you were drafted in 2003, from the time you retired after 12 great years with the Steelers and 2 world championships. It is our pleasure, and everybody in the live chat's really excited to have you on here as well, Ike. So thank you for joining us today.
Oh, no problem. Anytime.
And there goes Brian trying to impress you with his extensive Steelers knowledge. But that's kind of how we are around here. We kind of keep it light and have a good time. But we're going to dive right in and ask some questions. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Okay. We're going to talk 2020 Steelers. Okay. We have their secondary is really seeing a resurgence, you know, after in 2019 and then into 2020. How does that compare, do you think, from the secondary from when you played?
I don't think you can really compare the secondary. The reason why I don't feel like you can right now is the experience we had together. Yes. You know, between Troy and I, we came in and we left out together. We played 12 years together. That's kind of hard to put a Joe Hayden in a Nelson and a Minka and those guys and try to compare, you know, because the experience factor. During the time of free agency, you know, everybody get to go wherever they want to go. Yeah. A few of us stayed because we wanted to play with each other. So, but just looking at what they're doing right now, it's a good thing to see. You know, don't forget Coach Tomlin is a secondary guy. Yeah. So Coach T, that's his expertise, the secondary. And he came up with a heck of a secondary. His last couple of years, Coach T pretty much found what he was looking for between corners and safeties. You know, so I don't want to compare because I think it's unfair what I'm seeing from them. Yeah. You know, right now, I'm seeing Steelers of old. Yeah, it's what I'm saying. You know, that's what I know a Pittsburgh Steelers defense look like, especially the secondary.
And, you know, let's talk about that secondary here, Ike. I want to jump ahead to Terrell Edmunds. Is he living up to the draft selection, or because Steeler Nation and the media look at him being a first-round draft pick? And they don't give him the respect that I feel that he deserves. Would have he been better off being a 3rd-round draft pick with the Steelers? Because it seems like the fans are tough on him.
It's the consistency with him. You know what I'm saying? He shows flashes, and he makes the plays. But you know, every 1st-round pick ain't gonna be the 1st-round pick you're expecting. You know, and for T and for Terrell. He can't help he went 1st round. Like we be getting mad at guys, you know, you might have a 3rd round draft grade on him. Somebody might snuck up on him like Pittsburgh did and went 1st round. So you really can't get mad at the guy. I think it's the consistency part with T. T got to be consistent like Minka. You know, the reason why Minka is Minka because Minka's just consistent, you know, so, and that's what T got to understand. And I think bringing Minka, you know, to that secondary, Terrell is looking at the consistency you need to play in the league for a long time. All these, you know, good games, bad games, or so-so games, and no consistency, you won't last. I don't care what round you is. So I think, you know, I think from what I see, that's what the Pittsburgh Nation is looking for. That's what his coaching staff is looking for. It's the consistency that he needs to bring, whether you're a 1st or a 6th round. It's just that consistency you need to bring to the table, and that's what I think T needs to do because I know he can do it.
Yeah, and what's unusual with him is if you're talking about just, of course we know the secondary is more than just the 4 guys because of the sub packages, but if you look at just the 4 main, 2 corners, 2 safeties, he's the only guy as a projected starter for 2020 who the Steelers drafted. You know, they've compiled this. That's a lot different from when you played because you guys were mainly guys that the Steelers took in the draft. So it's kind of a difference there. And I think sometimes he's held somewhat differently just because he was a draft pick and not someone that they picked up. So how do you feel about them putting that secondary together more through free agency than through the draft.
Because they tried and they missed out on in the draft.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Pittsburgh, they was missing out for these drafts. So and it's rare, and that was the frustrating part about it. Between me, Deshae Townsend, Ricardo Coakley, Brian McFadden, it's a lot. We got drafted.
Yeah.
We're Pittsburgh bred. We're Pittsburgh born. It was very random for us to go get a guy outside. The one guy they did have was, Dwayne Washington at the time. They drafted Chad Scott back in the day, and they wound up getting Dwayne Washington. But other than that, we kind of kept it in the family. We got Teron Carter, Chris Hope, TC Teron Carter. He came from Minnesota, but we felt like he was one of us. So it was just rare. We can go down the line with corners. We was drafting 2 or 3 corners. Keenan Allen. We was drafting Keenan Lewis. We was drafting 2 or 3 corners a year. I was like, dang, y'all just gonna keep drafting corners. Y'all don't like what I'm doing. But Cortez, Allen, like we can go down the line, but all of us was Pittsburgh born. It's not like that right now. And it's through free agency, but they hit on 3 guys right now between Joe, old school Joe, man. I would love to play with Joe. I would have loved to play with Joe. Between Joe, because I watched him in Cleveland. I watched how he was locking down in Cleveland. It was his swag. I watched him at Florida. And then you got Nelson. I feel like he's me. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. But just from a coaching staff and people around the league, they know well about Nelson. We all know what Minka doing.
Yeah.
We know, Minka is one of us, though. So all them guys I'm naming out the 4, Terrell is Pittsburgh born. Everybody else is some kind of like stepchild. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you mean.
But to me, I feel like they're Steelers because we always, as players, looked in the draft, who was one of us? Who would we draft? And that's the first thing, what it used to be. And now I see us getting back to that. Their front office, they didn't care about size. They didn't care about height. They didn't care about speed. Kevin Colbert in their front office, there was who was a Steeler. And that was engraved in us as players, like, is he still or not? Point blank, I don't care what position. And it's just something about being a Pittsburgh Steelers. So, they went through free agency, but I feel like the guys they got on the secondary end, they're Pittsburgh Steelers.
Very good. That is so awesome. And one guy who is synonymous with being a Pittsburgh Steeler is Ben Roethlisberger. And if we can ask you about Ben Roethlisberger's return, and what should we realistically be thinking about with Ben coming back? Everyone's saying 38, major surgery. Can he come back and be even better than he was the last couple of years?
It's his presence. You got to take the athletic ability out of it. You got to take the arm strength out of it. It's his knowledge and his presence. It's his experience. The man, what is going on? You're 16, 17?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't coach that. You can't script that. So that's what 7 is bringing to the table. It's the playing hurt. It took 7, that elbow injury, to really not play. Throughout my career, 7 and played through some injuries, and only 7 can do that because he was engraved. That's a Pittsburgh still. Like you couldn't get another quarterback and be like, oh yeah, man, we would have won these games with such and such. Like 7 he's a yinzer.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's 7. So what 7 is bringing to the table, it's not going to be the 7 of old. It's the knowledge up top. It's the wisdom. It's the calming them down in crucial moments. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the confidence he's going to give. And a coach can't coach that. What 7 is bringing to the table right now, especially with this young receiving core. So that's what you're going to love. That's what you're going to like about 7. It's going to be, okay, let me slow everything down to y'all in the fourth quarter when we down by 3. And, we got a minute and 27 left, and let me slow it down. Let me put y'all in the matrix. And I'm going to take over. Let me put y'all in the matrix. So we can't expect the old athletic 7. I mean, he's still a big guy to bring down, but it's what Coach T calls it. It's from the neck up what 7 is bringing to the table.
Yeah, we can't wait to see him back out there on the field here this coming season. But you mentioned the young receiver, so we're going to do a little bit of an exercise here, and you can answer these quick or anything you want to do. We're going to bring up some of these receivers for the Steelers, and I'm curious if any of them remind you in their playing style or anything of anyone that you matched up against in your playing days.
Okay,
if you understand with it. So we'll start off simple. Juju Smith-Schuster, and he reminds you of anyone you lined up against?
Juju is Heinz Ward.
Okay. Heinz Ward.
Like Juju could have played with us. And then that's how, when I say play with us, like with how the rules have changed now, if Juju was back in the early 2000s with us, Juju would have caused hell, because he's an aggressive receiver. He's a big physical, and that was Heinz. Heinz wasn't a big guy. Heinz mentality made him big. When you got guys on defense knowing what number 86 was because they didn't want to get cracked and get put to sleep. That's what Heinz brought to the table. So Heinz wasn't the fastest, Juju not the fastest, but Heinz knew how to get open. Heinz wanted the clutch moments all the time. That's all he wanted. But I'll be damned if that boy wasn't physical, but that boy was physical as heck. And that's what Juju brings to the table.
Excellent. All right. Deontay Johnson.
Reminds me, he's a lighter version of Santonio Holmes.
Okay.
We've heard that before.
He's a mix. He's a mix between Randall L. If you have a baby and you put a Randall L, you put a sprinkle of Randall L and a sprinkle of Santonio Holmes, there you go with Johnson.
All right, there you go. Well, so Brian, I think you were the one who said that one in a previous show that we did. So I gotta give you some.
I'm feeling good.
That one. So okay, how about James Washington?
Oof. We haven't seen in James, like James is old school country strong.
Yeah,
I know what I'm saying?
I see what you mean there. Yeah, I grew up in the country. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he a little bit different. He's a bare knuckle guy. Yeah, like don't MMA me, don't box me. We fighting bare knuckles. You know what
this
I'm
is
saying?
awesome.
And I've had some dogs like that. I'm just talking about just like natural brute strength. Just if you just look at his story, what he did is, going on his dad's farm and just losing weight and just it's a difference between being weight room strong and country strong. He's grandpa strong.
That's a great way to put it. Grandpa strong. I like that.
And that's what he is. And I really can't compare him with nobody. But I like what I see in James. Like James was starting to break out last year.
Yeah, because he did lead the Steelers in receiving yards. Here's one that's going to be a little bit tough because you don't have anything in the NFL to go with other than just some practice time and everything else. What about Chase Claypool? Anything that you've seen from him? Don't know how much you've seen from him.
Claypool is Claypool is the just style body wise. So his style and body type, he's LeBron James playing receiver.
Okay.
I'm not trying to compare him to LeBron. I'm just saying if you look at his build, because he's a big guy.
Yeah.
So he's really a basketball player playing football. He just so happened to be super aggressive. If you just watch some of his tapes from Notre Dame, and we always talk about stuff people don't see, the little things. Like for corners, for us, we had to tackle Coach LeBeau's like, if you ain't tackling, you ain't playing in his defense. If you watch how he blocks, that's an attitude. That's a want to. You know, this man blocks like he's either trying to block you out the play, block you out the screen or the videotape that they're taping, or he's trying to block you to make you understand he ain't got time for you. And it's something like saying little boy. You know, so that's the mentality. By the way, I can go up on the rim. If you want me to jump 46 inches, I can go out and get this ball up top of the backboard and catch it for you, 7. I've been watching like some of the highlights, and most of the time they've been high balls.
Yeah.
That 7 has been throwing to him. A guy who can, it's hard for tall guys who can adjust their body. You know, he's one of them. You know, whether it's a back shoulder fade, whether it's a deep ball, whether he's covered and he got to go get it. And one thing y'all got to start paying attention to, and I've been telling the media guys this for a while, you pay attention to players who talk about other players. They're telling you the story because they're around them 24/7. Heck with the coaches, listen to how players talk about other players. When I heard Joe Hayden say, this man going to be a problem, he sees them every day. What is Joe, 10th year, 11th year? So Joe know what he's talking about. As soon as I heard that, I said, okay, if Joe said he's going to be a problem, he the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we had said where, you know, he could be like, oh, yeah, that, you know, the rookie made a nice play on me or something. You know, he doesn't have to say anything, but he went out of his way to say he's going to be a problem for the other team. That was great. How about another new Steeler? What about Eric Ebron as a tight end?
We'll see. You know, was it 2 years ago with E? He tore it up with touchdowns.
Oh, 13.
You know, he tore it up with touchdowns. So it's time to tell with E. Of course, we know his athletic ability. All this, what I saw what Pittsburgh was doing for that offense, it was just bringing it back to when 7 was a rookie. And they understand 7 ain't 7, a young 7. Big Ben ain't a young Big Ben no more. But here's what we're going to do. We had Heath Miller. We had Antoine Randall L. We had Heinz Ward. We had Plex left. Wound up having Santonio Holmes. After Santonio Holmes, you give him a loaded backfield. So you pick up another Watt in the backfield, got James Conner. Then you go out on draft you another running back. You got Snells. So when I'm looking at them, I say, okay, they getting back to really helping 7 out.
Yeah.
You know, and how you really help 7 out. You give 7 2 tight ends, he's hell. 7 really haven't had two legit. So you got Vance and you got E. You know what I'm saying? Then you really, from what I see what they doing and surrounding Big Ben with, it's 7 calling his own plays, man.
Coach Randy, we keep saying he's really the unofficial offensive coordinator at times.
Hey, Coach Randy, I love you to death, but 7 calling these plays, and I'm saying this how 7 gonna be like. Coach Randy gonna give him a script of plays, but Coach Randy is not on the field, so only the guys on the field can get a feel. Okay, this how the tempo going. Today gonna be a run day. My offensive line got big holes. I got my running back in the rhythm. I know we scripted, or we might have planned that, 300 yards passing, 400 yards passing, but today feel like a 250, 275 run game today. And you only get that feel when you're on the field. And that's what 7, and that's the expertise 7 is going to bring to the table, you know it. And, Coach T going to love it, because that's one thing about Coach T. Coach T catching a guy who has a high IQ from the neck up, he just let that guy be that guy, and that's 7.
You mentioned Vance McDonald, so we're going to continue this going. Who does Vance remind you of, Ike?
Oh man, Vance is just Vance. I can't.
And that's not a bad thing.
It's not. Vance he's his own. It's hard for me to compare Vance. I had Heath Miller, man, and y'all know y'all know what Heath was bringing to the table, man. Like Heath ain't want no gloves. He was another old school. He ain't want no gloves. All he wanted to do was block you into the ground before and after the whistle. By the way, I'm gonna catch touchdowns. Like Heath was Kittles before Kittles. I tell you that right now. That's who Heath Miller was. You know, between blocking and catching. You know, that's he. But Vance, man, Vance got a lot of attitude, and that's what you got to have at that tight end. You know, he got a lot of attitude. So, you know, I'm liking what I'm saying to Vance, but I really can't compare with him right now.
Hey, that's fine. We understand that, but want to shift gears here a little bit, and something let's do this. This is a question that Brian asked some on a show of his last week, and that is right now, if something happens where he doesn't have another game, based on his resume right now, is Mike Tomlin a Hall of Fame coach?
100%. Why is he?
I mean, you all you did was verify what we said.
Yeah, I mean, look at Coach Cowher's resume. Now look at Coach Tomlin's resume. They got the same resume.
Yeah,
they got the same resume. You know, but Coach T never. Man, you know how hard it is not to ever have a losing season.
I used to coach high school football. I know how hard that is.
You know he could have had his first losing season last year by going 4 deep at the quarterback position, and the man still wound up going 8-8. You know how hard it is. You got coaches who have starters at quarterback who can't even get 8-8, go 7-9. Man, you know how that showed me last year, which I thought he should have got Coach of the Year. That showed me last year how Coach T is I already knew he was a hell of a coach, but what he had to work with last year at that quarterback position. Man, that showed me and his coaching staff how Coach T was and how good that coaching staff was to give themselves and Pittsburgh, the nation, a opportunity to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I want to follow up with something like that. Do you think the rest of this team was kind of built stronger going through what they went through without Seven in there last year?
100%.
You know, so I keep wanting to say that too, that I'm like, this is going to make them better this year.
Once, because you got young guys who probably wouldn't have played. You got a defense who had to get stout. Because when you got Seven, you can get relaxed a little bit. So now you got a defense that had to get stout. So the defense, don't forget, Pittsburgh got the most first rounders on that defense in the NFL in the world.
Yeah, in the world. Yeah, that's a good way. I mean,
I think what it like?
Is it ever
like 7 to 8 first rounders on that defense?
It's crazy.
I'm talking about starters.
Yeah,
starters.
Yeah, because you got to think about who wasn't. It's not Tuitt.
Correct. It's not Vince Williams.
It's not Vince Williams.
Right.
It's not
Nelson.
Nelson.
Okay, so now we're talking about Bud, TJ.
Yeah, that's
Cam.
it. So you're talking 8.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if Tyson Alualu is going to, if he's the starter at nose, he's another first rounder.
So you know that defense has stout. Man, that defense got so stout last year. That defense they got real stingy. They got stingy last year. That O-line, even though it was nicked up, you know, they handle their business because you got to protect. It's a different cadence. It's a different protection call. It's a different mindset. It's a different feel for when you're used to one quarterback. The O-line went 4 deep with the quarterbacks, man. So picture how well put they had to be in them 16 games. You know what I'm saying? So we got to tip our hat to the O-line as well, to have a different cadence, a different quarterback, a guy with different mobility. Man, it's hard. And they gave all 4 quarterbacks an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, again, man, I can't say enough about Coach T, man. Coach T, I felt like he should have won it last year just off of what he had and what he was about to do. I think them boys was a couple of plays away from making the playoffs. You know, Shout out to Coach T and that coaching staff.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because that's something we have been preaching for the longest time, that not many coaches, he was one of the only coaches that could have kept that team together. To still be 8-5 with 3 games to go. Absolutely incredible.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned the defense. So I want to ask you about the defense. I have a guy in mind that I'm thinking of here, but who do you think that this defense can't live without?
Cam.
Okay.
I mean, Cam is they can't live like Cam is the heart and soul of that defense.
Well, thank you.
And Cam isn't like the most athletic guy you want to see, but golly, he always grading out in your 90 percentile every game. You know, he know where he needs to be. He get a feel for it. And he's in the middle. You know, Cam know where the linebacker and the secondary guy needs to be. I don't think too many people know how smart and how good of an IQ Cam is. Like every play, he know. When we played, and then when I had a young Cam, Coach Mitch had his defensive line. Y'all got to know every position, calls and all, and where all the guys need to be. So when you want to talk about Cam got his position locked up. No. But he know where the line, he know what Devin Bush need to be, he know what TJ Watt need to be, he know what Joe need to be, he know what Minka needs to be. So that's what you gotta love about Cam. But it's his motive. You know, he's a technician. You know who Cam reminds me of, who was highly underrated, but Cam gets the pub that he needs? Aaron Smith.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Aaron Smith was a big piece of that defense, and his name just gets glossed over so many times. He was something.
People, but the opponents,
they knew who he was.
They knew Smitty. Used to call Aaron Smith Smitty. You best believe they knew who Smitty was at all time, and they used to always say, "Please don't wake him up." But I used to always get Smitty mad, because I be talking smack to the offensive line on the other side and be like, y'all know y'all can't check that boy right there, right? And he'd be like, all right, can you please just leave
it alone? Oh, that's great. So let's go. Let's make sure we hit some things up here and there from back in your day. I just out of curiosity, when they say, you know, with all your time with the Steelers, what would you call if someone said, I want one game to watch the film, and it's going to be my Ike Taylor highlight film? What was in your opinion, your best game with the Steelers?
Man, I think we played the Ravens for the 3rd time in the playoffs at home.
Yeah.
Man, I was in the zone. I'd be trying to tell people that playoff experience in the Steel City, it's in the air. As soon as you walk out the door, like, regular season is cool, but once you walk out the door in the air and the presence and the vibe, I tell people, like, it got my mind. I felt like I was in Gothic City. Yeah. It's like all hell about to break loose. It's about to get real dreary for the opponent. You know, you kind of you got to go in that Joker mode. You know how crazy Joker is. Your mindset in the playoffs for the Steel City, you got to go Gothic on them. You know, and you got to be there to feel it. You know, you gotta turn into a totally different person during playoff time in the Steel City, but it's in the air.
Yeah.
You know, you ain't talking to your mama, you ain't talking to your girlfriend, you don't want to be bothered with nobody. I'm about to apply pressure on another man's life kind of mentality. When you want to talk about going into Heinz Field for the playoff feeling.
I'm just, as a fan that's been to playoff games, it is something different. I can't imagine how it is for you guys out there on the field. It's just, it's electric.
And you mentioned earlier, Ike, that being a Yinzer and being Pittsburgh born and bred, and how proud you are of that. And we know how fantastic. We've heard everybody talk about how it is playing in the Steel City. But the question I have for you is: you had a really special bond with the late chairman Dan Rooney. How did that come about? And can you expound on Dan?
It just happened. Papa Rooney. Matter of fact, I called his phone. Like I get sensitive when I talk about him because he was just one of those guys I love, man. He took me under his wing and he carried me just as a young man. We can talk about sports all day, but that's why Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh, because it started with Papa. When you got a CEO / owner who doors open, and when you hear other free agents coming from other teams, and I've never talked to the owner, I've never known the CEO, his doors always closed. Like, Papa was just one of us. But then when you look at the history of Papa Rooney, he grew up around legends. And what I mean by legends was, back in the day, they didn't fly, they went by train. So he had some of the players helping with his schoolwork, math, writing. So he was one of the players as a kid. So that's all Papa knew was players. So when he got old, I see why he treated players like just one of his. We thought it was one of his kids. Like Papa Rooney, when it was time to handle business, I'm sure the man handled business, because I just seen him put his ride down to handle business when it came down to business. But just as far as like an individual, man, I couldn't play for a better owner. Like, man, I played for a Hall of Fame owner. I'm looking at 2 Hall of Fame coaches, head coaches. I'm looking at Dick LeBeau. I'm looking at Russ Grimm. Man, I didn't play for so many Hall of Fame people. Man, I'm fortunate. I'm blessed. But Papa Rooney, he was just, him and our relationship, it was different. I was a pallbearer.
Yeah.
I was a pallbearer for Papa Rooney. And now all the legends that walk through that locker room, through that facility, through that door, make sure Ike Taylor is with my grandkids to the grave.
Wow. I don't know what to say after that.
That's
just
absolutely beautiful.
Goodness. It just embraces what the Pittsburgh Steelers really are and what sets them apart as an organization.
Everybody knew how good our relationship was, but when they saw me with the grandkids as a pallbearer, they was like, "Oh, this was more than what we ever thought or could imagine."
Yeah. So, hey, our live chat's kind of buzzing here. A lot of them are wanting to. They're talking about that interception. That you had. Yeah, we'll bring that up in just a minute, Brian. But they're talking about that interception, the interception you had in the Super Bowl. What's it like getting an interception in the Super Bowl?
I'm a part of history.
Yeah.
I mean, for the rest of my life, I'm a part of history. Then we wind up winning that game. I'm like, so I helped out a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I finally caught one. Because I dropped the first one in the first quarter. I dropped one in the first quarter. And they saw that. I knew it was coming. They saw the same Coach LeBeau called the same defense. I saw the same formation. And I knew exactly. I said, I can't drop this. I knew exactly where he was going. And I wound up catching. I was like, oh, damn, I'm a part of history. So,
yeah.
That's on my resume. Not a lot of people can say that.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just very thankful I contribute to one of them, trophies up on the second floor on the south side in Pittsburgh, PA.
That's right.
And Donald Nolan in our live chat says Bob Labriola has said that if there was a defensive MVP in that Super Bowl, it would have been Ike Taylor.
Yeah, but practice. They went at me because we knew the game plan. The game plan for Seattle was to go at Ike. That was their game plan. So I guarantee you, every pass that was thrown was my way. So they was preparing me for that Super Bowl. So getting to the Super Bowl, like after the first quarter, I'm like, oh, this what it is. Like I didn't went through practice. I didn't got damn near 70 balls thrown my way. So let's rock and roll.
Hey, big players step up on the big stage. That's how it works. We did have someone that did do a super chat question that they wanted to bring up. I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to mess that one up. He wants to know if you've ever been approached by Old Spice for the endorsement with your swagger persona.
Nah, they need to holler at me though.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I have one other thing that I know we want to let you go here soon. So one of the things that we kind of do on our family of podcasts is a lot of times we refer to people using their middle names. And like Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger, and Brian Anthony Davis likes one Michael Petaway Tomlin.
We just uncovered that one the other day. We didn't know that.
As far as I know, where we get this from, it just says Ivan Taylor.
Right.
Is that true?
So my middle name is Ike. It's Ivan.
Okay. So it is really Ivan Ike Taylor.
Yes.
Okay.
See,
I didn't
Dave,
know if Ike, that's what Brian said. I didn't know if they were saying that Ike was, the nickname for Ivan, or if really was your middle name.
So after my dad, so I changed it from Ike because everybody just started calling him Ike. So my middle name used to be Lydell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now that's getting the scoop.
Right. So change it to Ike.
I like it. So, Brian, anything else you want to finish up with here? Because, we want to respect your time.
As we're going to get ready to wrap up, my question to you is, are we on the stairway to 7? Do we need to go ahead and book you now for Super Bowl week to talk about the Steelers in the Super Bowl?
I said if 7 stay healthy, 7 gonna help us get 7.
All right. Yeah. So we're gonna mark it down now. You'll hang out with us Super Bowl week, right?
100%. I got y'all. We good. Y'all right down the street. This in Tampa, right?
Well, actually, we're in Maryland, but we're in Pittsburgh.
I'm talking about the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
Oh, just down the street from you. You don't care.
We'll come down and see you.
Yeah,
we'll hang out with you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We'll have you on the show too.
Oh, no problem. That's easy money.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Ike Taylor, thank you so much. XEDB puts in $2 and says, "Go Steelers, Ike! You are awesome." Ike's coming from Canada there too, so that's XED's coming from Canada there too. We have a lot of great fans that we're so glad to have you here today. Dave, want to wrap us up?
Yeah. Well, I just have to say, I'm surprised Brian didn't bring up his thing. Brian still says you were the man who was ahead of your time. You had the terrible towel mask before anything came down with COVID. You were, he wanted to ask you some stock questions maybe when we were here, because you seem to understand how these things go.
Right.
You can see I got my own mask that I like to wear, but yours is pretty good. But we just really want to thank you for the time that you gave us here today, and the live chat just constantly coming through. Thank you, Ike. You're the man. We really appreciate it. Love that you took the time out here with us. So with that, anything else do you want to say to Steelers Nation while you have the chance?
I'm a Yenza for life.
That sounds exactly. That's good answer there, Brian. That's just applause right there. So, well, for behalf of Behind the Steel Curtain, we just want to thank you again for coming with us. And for those of you that are tuning in, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications, so that way we know anytime that we're going live. And as of course, always make sure you're checking out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And we'll see you next time.